Hola, my name is Elias Torres, host of the American Dream podcast. On this show, I talk to underrepresented founders and seasoned executives who have achieved their versions of the American dream. We discover their origin stories, their career trajectories, and their biggest lessons learned. On this episode, I highlight the story of Sabari Raja, a corporate employee turned founder turned investor. Sabari immigrated to the United States from India by herself to earn a master's degree in computer science, a physical representation of the resiliency she has shown from a young age. You'll hear about many of the defining moments of resiliency throughout Sabari's career in this episode, so let's get into it. Sabari, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Elias. Appreciate you having me. I'm a big fan of your podcast.
Tell me your story. Tell me where young Sabari started.
I grew up in rural South India on a coconut farm. My parents still live there, so I enjoy going there once a year at least. Most of my family is from farming backgrounds, mostly from rural areas, but grew up in a household where parents actually valued education a lot, even though they were not college graduates themselves. I'm a first gen college student, but from a young age, I remember, my mom saying, if you don't get good grades, you're going to have to graze cows on the farm. Now, like after, at this age, I'm like, that sounds like a peaceful type of work, so it was always sort of embedded in us. Me and my younger sister were two kids, that it was education is really going to be a bridge to achieve your dream, so don't take it for granted when given the opportunity. So that's my background. From there, I ended up actually going to engineering school undergrad in India, and from there, really at that time, a lot of conversations about, some of my friends were wanting to come here to the US to do their masters. I thought, why not? I want to see the world. Never left my hometown, never been on a plane before. My first plane ride was actually to come to the US. So I came here to do my master's in computer science. Then, the rest is history. Ended up in corporate America.
Well, hold on,
And
there's a lot. There's a lot here to unpack.
yes,
It's a long story, and you're making it too fast.
it is a long story. We have a whole
We
hour.
just started. We're like 2 minutes in.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Coconuts. I love coconuts. Um, did you ever climb a tree?
No, no. I mean, we were not allowed to climb trees.
You climbed,
So my parents were,
you climbed the tree.
no, I should try. I've always admired the people who climb trees. It's an art.
It's
I don't know if you,
yeah. Oh,
they wear that rope around their ankles and climb like the tallest tree. I'm like, it would not work in America where there's so much focus on public health and safety, but they did it over there. It's interesting. No, actually, I say I grew up on the farm, but at the age of 5, ended up going to boarding school. Me and my sister, because I mentioned before, my parents really wanted us to get a good education. There were really not many good schools close by, so ended up. It's very common in my family. It's like everybody ends up going to boarding school. So at the age of 5, I was sent to boarding school, and so literally only came home during the holidays, and we were a bit spoiled during the holidays when we came home.
that's
So
nice. That's
yeah.
nice. Fancy, fancy. Um, it's that was you know how do you think that? In what ways did boarding school shape you?
I think that was very crucial to who I am today, because I remember first day when my parents left me behind in boarding school. There were so many crying children around me. I was sort of shell shocked and the only one that wasn't crying. I remember till date the teacher pulling me up aside and making me stand on the desk and say, "Look at her. She's so strong. You should be like her. Don't cry." I was literally like so shocked I couldn't get a tear out of me, So a lot of things like to be independent.
So you were faking it till you make it. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't know what that meant, but that's probably what it was. So it really taught me independence, to be resilient. Um, you know, I was like 4 or 5 when I went to boarding school, but like at the age 6, you're taking leadership roles because you're in first grade now. You're working with the kinder kids. You're helping them shower, fold their clothes. So you kind of learn to take ownership, make decisions, you know, get on with life without complaining. The food is not like the tastiest. You just put what you eat. I mean, you kind of eat whatever's put in front of you. You don't complain. You just go through life and learn to just get on with it, right? So
It sounds like I went to boarding school because I just ate what my mom put in front of me. I couldn't. Oh,
well, I wish I could say that about my kids. They're a little more pickier than when I was.
because I
Yeah,
said, no, I'm saying I grew up that way. It's like I just
yeah, yeah.
what was put in front of me.
Good for your mom. I should have taken some tips from her.
Yeah, it
So,
was like I try to do it to a certain extent with mine, but it seems like your boarding school is not like the boarding schools that I'm imagining here in Massachusetts.
no, no.
It
I
was
mean, we still went.
exponentially
No, no,
scandalous.
we still went to good boarding schools, but like it was a lot more. Um, Authoritarian, is that a word? I mean, I don't know if I can use that word, but it was a lot more like very military style, right? Like you
Right.
have to walk in a line, you can't move your arms, you have to wear uniforms, you have to. So it's very much high discipline.
Yeah,
And yeah, so
but it
good,
also
good
doesn't
schools,
seem
but
like,
very disciplined.
but
Yeah.
it also doesn't sound like it was super fancy either.
I mean, it was actually good. I mean, it was actually good private schools. But
But I'm saying, but comparing, like for example, like here, if I show you a picture of Phillips Academy, right?
yeah,
Um, it's the most immaculate campuses, amazing
yeah,
kitchens, amazing residences, right?
yeah.
Like the facilities are like the schools here, the private schools are like squash courts,
Oh yeah, no, no.
courts.
It's
This, I mean, like there is nobody's helping any other kid. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, no, no. It's not like the fancy private schools because in India, um, a lot of the middle class go to private schools. So that's the difference. These are good schools, but it's not like the where the top 1% go. So it's sort of a
Yeah,
middle class kind of private school.
yeah,
So
no, I agree, I agree. That's what I meant.
yeah,
But it was boarding though, so
it was boarding. Yes.
you lived there and you had. Um, so what do you think? You think you were resilient, or you think people telling you were resilient, you became resilient? Give me the answer to life.
I think a bit of both, right? I immediately had to figure out how to survive in this world and had to quickly be strong. That was my takeaway. And I saw kids crying who got like even more sort of reprimanded by teachers. And I said, I don't want that. So I might as well figure out how to be strong, right? So and then it's a cyclical thing. Like you're strong, and then more people tell you you need to be a leader now because you can help other kids. It gives you the confidence. it's
Yeah,
it's kind of all interconnected.
it's all interconnected. But like I've always loved leadership. I think if you tell someone you're going to be a leader, some people say, I don't want to. I don't
Yeah,
want to do that. Right?
yeah,
Just some people like especially all those exercises you do in events and corporate and whatever. Some
yeah,
people like, you group a whole bunch of people and it's like
right,
some people sit back and say, "Tell me what my job is, and I'll do it." And
yeah,
some people are like, "No, I want to tell you what to do."
yeah,
It's
yeah.
obviously we know which one you are, right?
So you're very intuitive. What can I say,
But it's I love that too, right? I
Yeah,
always delighted when people tell me. you're in charge. Even though everybody says I'm a kind of like a clown, and some people say I'm immature. To this day, like I'm 49, right, and it's still like I'm immature. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hey, whatever, it's worked for you, so
exactly. The problem is that I figure it out because it has worked so well for me.
yeah,
I'm even more of a clown now. So
correct.
it's like,
Interesting. I wouldn't have guessed.
oh wait, yeah. It's a so but that's extremely. I mean, I think that to me is like the most important, the core, right? Of
Yeah.
I like what you said. Like people think that that confidence built like overnight. No,
Yes.
it takes all these experiences little by little, and you get
Little. Yeah.
more and more confident, more and more confident. But you have to seek it, right?
Yeah.
5 years old. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's early.
Yeah. I mean, actually, when I had my kids and they were 5 years old, I thought, gosh, I would like never send them to boarding school and let them experience what I
Yeah,
had to,
it's
it's just
we look back, and you live in that dichotomy, right, where you wouldn't be here today if your parents hadn't done that.
100%, 100%. I know it was a tough decision for my
It's a
parents,
tough
right?
decision, and
Yeah.
and yet you have yours, and you're not able to make that
I'm
decision.
not able to make the decision. Yeah.
It's like it's wrong,
Yeah.
and it was right. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
which
No,
was,
I think it's a factor of circumstances and access, right? Like if my parents, I wonder if they were living in a city with a great school that was next door, they probably wouldn't have had to send me away, right?
but I mean, but your kids are older now.
Yeah, yeah. Now they're, yeah. For
But
college they're gone,
but the
right? So
question is, are they going to become their best selves?
yes.
Right? I don't know. Like
Yeah,
I have three college age kids now,
yeah, yeah,
and I don't know yet, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What's going to happen? What influence I have any longer, right?
yeah,
And if I did the right things, and I don't know. I would hate to say this is I'm in a tough position, but I don't know if they're as hungry as I am, right?
yeah,
Or as I was
yeah.
at the time I came into this country as an immigrant, right?
I hear this from a lot of my immigrant friends, right? I challenge you a bit because our kids' stories are slightly different, right? I don't know whether their kids are going to be hungry enough, right? but for our kids, I feel like they've grown up listening to our story. They've seen the small decisions we make every day, how we spend money, how we teach them certain values, and I feel like they've learned some of that from watching us, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Your concern would be very much valid, more so for their children than our kids. I feel, I think it takes a generation for some of those values to completely change. I won't say erode, but change.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, I think yeah. Times. I think that the key thing you said is circumstances, right?
yeah,
And no, I love yeah. I'm team immigrant all day. Like
yeah, me too, me too.
even against my kids. It's like
Yeah, no, 100%,
you
100%. I
can't.
think it's what shapes them and us mainly. So
Maybe I'll kick them out of the house and send them to another.
you're so funny.
I will do it. I'll do it. I'll
Yeah,
send them to a coconut farm.
yeah, yeah,
They have to. They have to.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so you study a degree in computer science. I'm sure that was easy. Lots of women in the school. What school did you go to?
My undergrad was in electrical engineering back in India. Very few girls. We were like a class of 40 with five girls. And then when I came here to do my master's in computer science, I went to Louisiana State University. Um, Honestly, I had no idea where I was applying or going. I just picked a few schools from the Peterson's Guide and literally no idea. I mean, nobody from my family has gone anywhere, left town, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
you're like I'm going to the United States.
yeah, the fact that my parents even let me go through with this is still, I'm puzzled. But yeah, so when I went to LSU, I switched to doing computer science because that's where it felt like a lot of the job opportunities were. So I was doing some programming on the side, so I really enjoyed that. Ended up switching my major midway through year one, and yeah, it wasn't easy. And the same thing, I remember going to a Microsoft conference at that time, and an interviewer came up to me and said, I want to ask you a few questions. There are just a handful of women in the room." And I was like, yeah. So yeah, it's changed quite a bit now, but yeah, and
Mm,
not as much, but
it's
somewhat.
better. It's better.
It's better. Yeah.
But it's still very difficult. What you've accomplished is extremely impressive. And did you come by yourself, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have your mommy when you came to college, your parents, nothing.
No, no, no. Actually, my parents sent me off. I felt like, this decision to go to the US to study was just, I don't think I really thought through what it really meant,
No, no,
you know?
I think that no one should ever think through
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
when
I know
we when we
you
think things, it's like it's just worse.
No, you're like spoken like a true entrepreneur, right? Like everyone keeps asking me, like, how did you first make this decision to leave home, and then how did you make the decision to leave your well-paying job to start your company? And I'm like, honestly, I didn't really think through any of this. Like, I feel like the biggest decisions we make in life, sometimes you have to jump off the cliff and have the grit to figure it out along the way, right? So
This stuff. I mean, yeah, everything I do is just on a whim. You know what I
yes,
mean? It's on a. It's just now I have more experience. Both I kind of know why I'm doing it. I'm like I
yes.
know it's a good thing to do.
Yes, yes.
It's
You go with your gut, right? You go with your gut. Like,
no, no,
yeah,
no. I'm not now. I go with more intelligence, right?
yeah,
More
yeah,
with like it's like let's build a product for this would be too small, so we not
yeah,
so let's build this. This would be a bigger market.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
it's good to be a market. And then also it helps me now. I can be like, yep, we made a mistake. Let's stop doing it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just think that it's just the problem is that people don't understand that they overthink and that nothing is permanent.
yeah,
That you can just if it's not the right thing, you can just stop doing it and go do something
yeah.
else. You know.
100%. I think, especially as a first-time entrepreneur, you take a leap of faith, right? Because at that time, more than data, it's your intuition that's guiding you. You feel like, yeah, I know I'm passionate about this. I want to solve this problem. I want to, make the sacrifices and jump on the ship.
Yeah,
But now I feel like I know too much and about starting a company. I might go into analysis paralysis now if I had to do it all over again, right? So
I'm. It's my fifth company.
yeah.
I'm like second guessing myself every time.
Yeah,
Am I am I doing this differently?
yeah,
Like don't do it differently, but do it differently.
yes, yes, yes,
No, no, yes, just do
yeah,
it your way.
yeah,
It's complicated. So I'm trying to. Yeah, I live in a different complexity now, where
yeah.
I'm like, it's not that I'm overthinking it, but I'm switching back and forth on the strategy of gut versus experience.
100%, 100%. I mean, you have to still, we have the privilege of relying on our experiences now,
Exactly. I
which
can't throw
you
it
can't.
away.
Yeah, you can throw it away.
And
Correct.
so I'm like, no, let's do this,
Yeah.
or like do that. But just trying to be true to myself. I just say like this one, I want to build it. I want to solve the problem that I want to solve. I don't know,
Yeah.
and I'm saying like, this is what I want to solve. If not, I don't want to solve it. You know what I mean?
Correct, correct, correct. I think that's the first question. Often I sometimes give talks on entrepreneurship, and everyone's like, this is my solution, this is my business model, this is, the TAM, SAM. And I'm like, but what's the problem that you're solving, right? I mean, you mentioned that, I'm passionate about this problem, I want to solve this problem, and that's where everything starts. And
Yeah, and so you studied computer science and you worked at where'd you work? Where'd you go to work?
Yeah, I actually got interviewed on campus, ended up taking a job at Texas Instruments in Dallas. And it so happened to be in education technology. I've never heard of EdTech as a category before that. And everyone used to say, "Oh, you make calculators," and so that was EdTech at that time, right? And actually, I was in the calculator group of Texas Instruments, so so, but it was also at a moment where EdTech was being defined. It was, beyond calculators. Like, how do you develop software for the classroom? How do you sort of bring equity into this process? So my first job, it was to some extent meant to be because I ended up in the education technology group and ended up falling in love with that. But I started as a software engineer. I don't know if you ever used the TI 83 plus or 84 plus graphing calculators.
Of course.
So my very first job was writing a software that runs on the PC to transfer files and operating systems between the computer and the TI 83 plus graphing calculator.
In some ways, those were my early computers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In that I installed Tetris on it.
Everybody did that, correct? Yeah,
They, I
yeah,
remember did some things that
yeah, yeah,
it was like, I think we could make it. We can. I think we can plug them to each other,
yeah,
and we could play against each other too.
yeah.
And
No,
so,
I think, yeah, it was,
I didn't know how that happened or how that worked. I was
yeah,
not at that level, right?
right,
But I just remember being. That's probably, yeah. I mean, like to have that calculator was a dream. It was just
yeah,
to watch that line generate. It was
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it was magical. No, I
yeah,
love that. No,
yeah.
I was gonna. I'm not trying to age ourselves here, right? Even though
No, no,
we're the same age, we want to
yeah,
keep everything neutral. Yeah, people can't
yeah,
figure it out. But the way that I was gonna bring up the calculator, my calculator, it's like I was so excited the day my kids in high school or something, they were like needed a calculator. It's like, we need the calculator, and I was like, what calculator do you need? And it was like the same thing, you know.
it's still the same
Same
thing.
thing.
My kids use, I'm like, I spent 14 years at Texas Instruments. I'm not paying for this calculator. I should be able to find one lying around somewhere, So,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a couple of versions. I had a blue one, I think I remember.
Mm.
There were color ones,
Oh, yeah.
and then there was one.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, math always fascinated me.
Yeah.
Of like, my mother taught at the university, and I remember walking around as a kid, and I to me, the more complex the notes and the math in a piece of paper, that was like my goal in life. It's like,
Yeah.
I would look at my classes and be like, I'm just doing like multiplication here.
Yeah.
This looks too simple. And I would see like a graph or like
Yeah.
X's and stuff. And I was like, that's where I want to go. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't think of ed tech
Yeah.
at that time. So, but they were building stuff for the schools.
Yeah, they were building stuff for the schools beyond calculators, in not just for math but for science. So there's a lot of focus on STEM. So because of that, I started as a programmer, but in a few years, I felt like I wanted to get out there into classrooms to learn about how teachers and students were using these products. So TI is very good at sort of giving you opportunities to move around and try different things, which really was a game changer for me, to have that flexibility. So I ended up moving into like a product management and a business development role, which took me more into visiting classrooms around the country. That really was, you know, the seed that sort of sparked many ideas that eventually led me to starting the company. So I went into a lot of underserved school districts and I was volunteering at some of the school districts to mentor kids on STEM education. I was involved in a lot of community discussions around what is the role of industry in education, where industry leaders, school district leaders,
Yeah.
government leaders were all coming together. So being at TI and having the opportunity to move into different roles, I did emerging markets for a while, focused on Asia markets. All of this sort of gave me the opportunity to connect my background and lived experience and have this unique sort of background on how technology can really change the way kids learn, going into many of these schools that are with underserved school districts across the country. It just gave me sort of a unique perspective where everything connected, and I could see the opportunity gaps very clearly, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at my at my age with my midlife crisis and stuff like that, I just always I'm starting to just ask myself all these existential questions or how things work. But
Yeah.
you're like grew up in a farm in rural India. You say I want to travel the world. You end up at a university in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Then you get a job at Texas Instruments. I just love those college career people. You know that I
Yeah.
mean, what? And they just put you on this path, and now like I see how everything is just connected.
Yes.
It's like it's so simple, right?
Yeah.
You just went, you say yes to the job at Texas Instrument,
Yes.
answer the questions to the man. You did
Yeah.
not make it, no overthink it. Took the job,
Yeah.
learn about EdTech, and you care about people in underserved areas. It's so great. Yet so many people are like, "What do I do with my life?"
Yeah.
You know what? It's just like, why is it so complicated when it can be so simple?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think you made even a comment like I about like why did I ever leave this farm?
Now I go back and I'm like, this is such a peaceful life, right? But yeah.
It's like it happened to me too. I went to Nicaragua and I was like, I'm leaving this country. Like, I'm gonna be poor here. I love the United States
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
went to, and then I was like, and I want everything. Everything is like, do I make more money than I made last year?
Yeah.
And this, and I don't
Yeah.
have a car, and I don't have a vacation home, and I have this, and I have that.
Yes.
And then I went to Nicaragua after 31 years,
Yes.
and I'm like eating like a corn in the street. I'm eating like a yuca and pork and
Yeah.
cabbage on a banana leaves and the
Yeah.
beach and I'm just as happy as I could be,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
in tears, like this is everything. We don't
Yes.
need any. This is organic, This
Yeah. 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 Every time I go to Costco to buy, um, a carton of coconut water, I'm like, why am I paying for this, right? so, so it's always funny.
is the perfect one of the perfect drinks you could take, coconut
100%.
water.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like yeah, what are we doing here? Let's just quit all this stuff. I mean, why bother?
You sound like a person who's made it in the American dream.
I have one more thing to unlock, but the more I see around me, the more depressing I am. Of like this is less meaningful than other things. Like I'm in conversations to build a school in Nicaragua right now.
Oh
And
wow,
that's like
amazing.
more interesting, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
100%. Yeah.
Than
Yeah.
like it's just like
No, I mean you're in the phase of a life where you want to give back. So
absolutely. So
yeah.
so you did but you're a founder.
Yeah.
You're an engineer. You can code. Fantastic. You can spend all day long coding at the office with the team, getting better, learning, scaling. But if you're not talking to the customers,
Yeah.
you're never going to evolve from that position.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like we think that, especially with AI, you should do something more than just code. And
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I honestly, it's been many, many years since I wrote a single line of code, even though that was where I started my career, right?
Mhm.
Um, for me, I was a good programmer. I didn't feel like I was a great one, meaning like I wasn't in love with being a programmer, right? So I was good enough. But where really my passion sparked and interest was when I started talking to people, understanding what they wanted, what problems can we solve. So i just I didn't start off with a lot of confidence, even though I told you the story of like faked it at 5 to be strong. Um, but it's the journey of like I was a programmer for 5 years, and then like I mentioned before, like I ended up moving into more customer facing roles, and then ended up doing some emerging market work. So what my lesson learned from that is I still have friends who I worked with who are still programmers. They're happy with that job, right? I knew right away that I wanted more, right? So, and I knew like I had to get over my inhibitions and fears. Like I remember sitting in meeting rooms having this amazing idea but couldn't work up the courage to speak up because it was a different world, it was a different environment. I felt I had imposter syndrome. I just couldn't bring myself to be confident in those settings, and I knew I had to get past my inhibitions to really pursue. It was always this conflict between my ambitions and the lack of confidence, and which
Yeah.
one's going to win, right? So I remember I had a couple of people who were very good mentors for me at the time. I actually sought out mentorship, got got that feedback, and said, "What do I need to do to get over this fear?" Right. So I first of all, I think it was
I know the answer.
yes.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it and do it all over again, again and again until that's beaten out of you, right? So, so
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's exactly it. I think I feel like first is self awareness, knowing where your fears and gaps are. You can either, I felt like you can either let that fear sort of completely, debilitate you to a point where you can't progress, or you can get, go head on with it and try to get
Yeah.
over it.
Yep.
So that's really the path I chose, and not so much intentionally in so many nice words, but it was just like I had this thing inside of me intrinsically where I felt like I needed to do more, and I can't do that if I don't get over these
Yeah.
things.
The yeah, you raised it's like how do we help people, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is that we can't help people
Yep.
unless they want to be helped.
Yes.
And if they want to
100%.
be helped, that means they have to be self-aware,
Yes.
right? And so because no matter what we say to somebody, I'm right a lot. I know people. I've been through stuff, but they look at me and they're like, "I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's not who I am. That's not what
Yeah.
I'm doing. That's not what's
Yeah.
happening to me."
Yeah.
And so it's like um, people tell people stuff about how they feel, and the mentor might be afraid of telling the truth.
Yeah.
And if they did, that person's still not going to hear it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. You
it's
have to want it badly. That's the number one step, right?
that's the thing. Is like, I mean, I think part of the reason with this podcast is to help people achieve their American dream,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they're not going to. Most people don't.
Yeah.
It starts from this moment. Are
Yeah.
you able to see what you're doing wrong, or that fear is debilitating you, right?
Right. Right. Right.
So, but you see, you just saw those things, right? And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
somebody
And
told you, you're like, okay,
yeah. And I think you asked me a question. I sort of digressed in different directions. I apologize. But I think the founder thing, really was like I was 14 years in the workplace. I had two little kids. It's not your, hey, I came out of college and started a company story, right? So there was a certain lifestyle, there's a certain, it was harder to make the decision at the time.
did we
So
live the same exact lives?
did you have this? Did you have?
I was 10 years at IBM.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
had
saw
three
that.
kids in diapers when I
Oh
started
wow. Oh
startup.
wow. I had two kids in lower elementary school when I started,
Yeah.
and I have many many stories to tell you about being a mom of these kids, and sort of facing some backlashes because of that, even from close friends, right? um, I ended up,
And
yeah, go
if
ahead.
you have an Indian community around you, probably worse.
Yes, to some extent. But my I had a very supportive spouse, which was actually, that was what
I'm
mattered the
saying,
most.
but the tradition or the
Tradition, yes,
it's
yeah.
like around you from friends and everything. It's like
Yeah, there's an expectation of who, what you need to be as a mom. Like, I missed their first day of elementary school. I missed all their soccer practices because, as if things were, it wasn't enough, I was also doing my MBA at that time. So
I did my master's while my kids, were born and
yeah,
worked at IBM and had the kids.
yeah, no, it's the
The
same
only
story.
thing is that I wasn't a mom, so you beat me by 3 times in that one.
Yeah, so you understand what I'm talking about. I mean, a parent is a parent, like, and then I had taken emerging market roles, and I did 11 trips to Asia that year while doing my MBA. So anyway, long story short here, I was in many of these rooms where there was a lot of conversations about how do we, you know, bridge the equity gap as we prepare students for the future of work. And like I was saying before, I had this sort of unique perspective, my own lived experience of being a first gen college student, not having access to social capital, having to figure out things on your own. And then I was quite surprised going into a lot of the classrooms in the United States that even like ocean support, it was still a problem, like for many kids. And so my lived experience sort of shaped that perspective. And having the technology background, working for a large tech company, it was like the perfect, all the stars aligned. And when I was in these rooms, that's when that idea clicked of, technology is really not connecting industry and education in meaningful ways. So the same, I was in an event where there was a lot of discussions around that, and then the same night I drove to my friend's house, who then became the co-founder and CTO. We're throwing stickies on the wall, and I googled how to type a resignation letter and handed it in the next morning, and had no idea what I was doing, right? So
You're so impressive. You know what I mean? I think I was good at saying yes, and I kind of just followed the right people.
yeah,
But you quit. Yeah, I mean, I guess I quit too, but you were the founder, right?
yes, yes, yes.
I joined a friend, David Cancel, where
Okay,
he made me comfortable to be his CTO.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
It's so I know how much harder it is to be. I'm starting this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it's also, like I said, the stage of life, right? Like where you're a comfortable two income earning family, you have a mortgage, you have a certain lifestyle. Like, I don't
No,
know
but
when I'm,
lifestyle was crap. So it was like barely could go out, cannot afford anything, paycheck to paycheck, small house, far away from Boston.
yeah.
So that was my context of my life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I had, two tech jobs in Dallas. It's still, I don't think I ever thought through, what if everything fails, right? I think there was in the behind it in the back of my head, I had this understanding, like, I'm giving myself 2 years. If things don't work out, I just go find a job. I just oversimplified this. So
And that was exactly what's how it's going to happen.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
If you didn't. And then what was there? What did you have? What there was an exit? Did you fail? Did it work? Did it not work? What happened?
No, my the first year I tried to start a company with, this was not the company I was just explaining, but I was trying, but I had an idea, I was trying to get it off the ground. That didn't work. But that was a whole year of learning what not to do. But then this company, Nepris, that I founded with my friend I just told you about, started in 2014. It was the following year. I told myself, I gave myself 2 years. I really only, gone through 1 year of not making this work. At that time, I really was like, oh my God, like I failed. But when I look back, those valuable lessons, if you had sat in front of me and explained to me what not to do, it wouldn't have sank in as deeply as it did. I had to go through it myself
Yeah.
and learn the lessons the hard way, and so I can do it, at least start off on the right foot the second time around.
I mean, maybe it's the immigrant thing. We're sucker for validation and for the imposter from learning the lessons. It's like
Yes.
it's like there were moments where drift could have been worth $0,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I would say to myself, I lost so much money by leaving HubSpot,
Yeah.
but having spent 8 years working my ass off at
Yeah.
drift and end up with $0, I still said to myself I would have been happier nonetheless.
Oh, 100%, 100%. You and I think we're very similar, because there were moments in the journey where I was like, am I going to make it? Can I,
And
can
it's
I make the
cycle.
next payroll, right? Like in the early, I'm like, oh, and it was 8 years at the end. So end of this journey was Nepris was the company I founded. It's now called Pathful. Went through the journey, raised a few rounds of venture funding, ended up getting acquired by a private equity firm in 2021. I know your acquisition happened in 2021 as well. So I was like,
What?
I know.
Are you like a chat GPT generated AI?
I know, right? You never know, So yeah, so got acquired end of 2021, and I stayed on to see it through a merger, a transition, stayed on the board, and all that stuff.
This is
And
where we go different.
yeah, so
I
what's different?
started another company. What did you do?
So that's where instead of starting a company, I joined one of my early investors to start this fund. So what I'm doing right now, I'm managing partner of JFF Ventures. It's sort of a full circle moment for me. I never really planned this ever in my as a career,
To go to
but
the dark side?
yeah, I always joke that as a founder, I thought most investors had a cushy job of writing checks. Now I know, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work, So
It's
uh,
still a cushy job.
no, not at all, not at all. It's actually in some ways it's harder than running a company
No, no,
because
I do think it's harder than running a company, and I don't ever want to do it. Not like, as a building a firm, I would never want to build a venture firm. It's
yeah,
like Sequoia called me, Sequoia
yeah,
listening,
he is, yeah,
after this says, I just sit down there and I'm like, I'm a partner of Sequoia. That
yeah,
would be different.
yeah,
But, oh my God, it's a lot of work, but it's still good. I mean, founder is still, no, I think founder is harder emotion. I don't know. It depends. It's just, if you guys are the ones responsible for the fund,
yeah,
returning money
yes,
is stressful.
yes. That's what I mean. I mean, even as a founder, you have a fiscal responsibility of returning investor capital if you're raising venture funding, but like as a fund manager, that responsibility is a little different, and I think the biggest thing that I'm learning, like I've been doing this for 2 years now, building a fund from scratch with my partner. um, but we've been fortunate to build on top of an existing ecosystem and a brand which is in this space. So it almost feels like, the most difficult thing, that's what I was about to say. The most difficult thing is, we have a very focused thesis. We are investing in the economic mobility of low wage workforce, especially in the age of AI. How can AI be a bridge and not a barrier? So we're investing in solutions that are bridging these opportunity gaps, bringing equity in this process of preparing, people for quality jobs. And the biggest thing is, because we invest along the holistic journey of the worker,
Yeah.
it's one day I'm investing in a healthcare company, another day I'm investing in a fintech company, another day this morning I listened to a fintech pitch and then a health tech pitch. So it's all related to quality jobs. That's what our thesis is focused on. But that sort of switching hats to constantly keep learning, like I feel like there's never a moment where I'm like, oh, I think I know
Yeah. Yeah.
most of it. Like building a company was, you know doing a lot of different things about one thing, but building a fund is like a lot of different things about a lot of different things
Yeah,
every
I
single.
agree. Yeah, exactly. I just still prefer like coupling learning with with like an outcome, right? With in the outcomes in the investment side, you have to wait 10 years. In in
Uh-huh.
in ours, if something happened, if a customer told me they loved the product,
Yeah, yeah.
that just made my day today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%, 100%,
So
100%. Yeah. I also feel like the reason I chose to do this work with the JFF network to build on top of was I realized the biggest value we can add to first time founders and many founders is not the checks, but it's the social capital. And I now have an opportunity to really truly be a strategic investor, opening doors and creating that social capital for many who start off without it, right?
yeah, thoroughly amazed in complete awe of your story.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show, being super vulnerable, and sharing your strength from day one. You know what I mean? And looking forward to see what else you build.